My name is Jenna. I'm 29, and on New Year's Eve, my own mother invited me to dinner just so she could tear me apart. Place was nice. Everyone dressed up. Champagne glasses everywhere, and I really thought maybe this year would be different. Then she leaned in close to my ear and whispered, almost sweetly, "We only invited you out of pity. Don't stay too long, okay?" For a second, I actually thought I misheard her. Until I saw the amused little smirk on her face. My brother burst out laughing at the table and said I was basically the failure of the family, the one who never made it, the one they had to rescue and hide. Couple of relatives chuckled. Someone muttered that at least I showed up on time for once. It was like they'd all agreed I was the joke of the night. I just sat there, holding my glass, feeling every word land like a punch. And then something in me went very, very still. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why they kept using me as a prop to make themselves feel superior. I smiled, took a slow sip of my drink, set the glass down, and told them I had an early morning. No drama, no scene. I walked out of that restaurant alone, into the cold air, with their laughter still echoing behind me. They thought I was walking away because I was weak. They had no idea that that night I'd finally hit my limit. They had no idea that 1 week later, the cozy family cabin they loved so much would be gone. The accounts they depended on would be closed, and those lovely bank statements would start rolling in. If you stay with me until the end, I'll tell you exactly how one New Year's dinner turned into the week their money disappeared. 1 week after that New Year's dinner, I was sitting on the sagging couch in my tiny Seattle apartment when my phone started going insane. At first it was just one call from my mom, then another, then 3 back-to-back from Mom's cell. I let them all go to voicemail. 30 seconds later my brother's name flashed on the screen. Then again. Then again. While it buzzed in my hand, my email notifications exploded with new messages from the bank. Subject lines like urgent notice, account changes, statement available lit up my laptop screen. I finally answered one of my mom's calls, and all I heard was panicked breathing and her voice up in that hysterical register she usually only saves for when something threatens her image. "Jenna, what did you do?" she shouted. "Do you have any idea what is happening? The cabin is gone. Do you understand me? There are strangers at Lake Chelan saying they're the new owners. They have paperwork with your name all over it." Then she jumped to the next crisis without even taking a breath. "The bank says some of our accounts are closed. The joint ones. The ones you were on. The auto payments bounced. There are fees. Your father is furious. What have you done to us?" In the background I could hear my dad, Martin, barking something I couldn't quite make out, and my mom yelling back that she was trying to fix it. I didn't answer right away. I let her words hang there while I stared out at the gray Seattle sky and the rain sliding down the window. Another call started buzzing in. This time my brother Ryan. I hung up on my mom and watched his name pulse on the screen. When I didn't pick up, he switched to text. Long, angry paragraphs popping up one after another. "You tanked my credit score. Do you even realize what that does to my clients? You sabotaged my summer plans, our family trips, everything. How could you be this selfish?" Then, the one that made me actually laugh out loud. "All because you couldn't handle one harmless joke at dinner." I leaned my head back on the couch and closed my eyes. 1 week earlier, I had walked out of that restaurant feeling like someone had reached into my chest and flipped a switch. I went home to my little place with its thrift store furniture and mismatched mugs, dropped my keys on the counter, and just stood there for a minute listening to the quiet. My hands were still shaking when I opened my laptop and started pulling up everything I had ever signed for that family. Old emails from the bank, digital copies of deeds, screenshots of, "Just sign this, it's no big deal." Messages from my dad and my brother. I pulled out the worn folder I kept in the back of my closet, the one with paper copies of documents I never really understood but signed anyway because they said it was for the family. That night I finally read them. Really read them. The cabin at Lake Chelan, the place they loved to brag about to friends, wasn't just in my name for tax reasons, like they told me. It was in my name, period. My signature. My ownership. The family emergency credit line Ryan opened years ago just happened to list me as a co-applicant. The joint account my mom swore was just for helping you build credit had been used to pay for their vacations, their upgrades, their perfect life. Page after page, it became painfully clear. I was not the helpless failure they painted me as at dinner. I was the financial safety net they'd quietly wrapped around themselves. At some point, I grabbed a pen and a blank notebook and wrote 3 words at the top of a fresh page. Take it back. Underneath, I started a list. Number 1, the cabin. Number 2, every joint account with my name on it. Number 3, every loan or bill I had been tied to without a real choice. I thought about the one person I trusted who actually understood this stuff. My old college friend Maya, now a lawyer in the city. As my phone buzzed angrily in the present, I looked down at that same notebook on my coffee table. The first 3 items on that list were now neatly crossed out. They had invited me to dinner just to humiliate me. They thought I would swallow it like I always did. Instead, 1 week later, they were finally feeling what it was like to live with the consequences of their own signatures. The morning after that dinner, when the humiliation had finally turned into something colder and sharper, I called Maya. We hadn't talked in a few months. But she picked up on the second ring. She smiled at first. Then her smile faded when she saw my face. "What happened, Jenna?" she asked. So I told her. I told her about the dinner, about the whispers and the jokes, and how it wasn't even the first time, just the loudest. I told her how every time my brother's business had a hiccup, somehow my name ended up on another favor. I watched her expression shift from concern to something more focused as I swiveled the camera and showed her the stacks of documents spread out on my coffee table. Deeds, loan statements, joint account summaries. All with my name printed neatly in places I barely remembered signing for. Maya went from friend mode to lawyer mode in about 2 seconds. "Slow down," she said. "Walk me through what each of those is." We went line by line. The Lake Chelan cabin deed. Maya zoomed in on the scanned copy I'd emailed her. She actually cursed under her breath. "Jenna," she said, "this isn't for tax reasons. This deed says you're the owner, not co-owner." Owner. She asked about the joint credit line with Ryan. The one that had been opened, just for emergencies. I told her how I never saw a single statement unless something went wrong. How my parents would just wave me off if I asked too many questions. She had me pull up the online banking dashboard in screen share. She had me scroll through transactions that read like a highlight reel of their life. Flights, hotel stays, upgrades, holiday shopping, all under an account that tied back to my social security number. Finally, Maya leaned back in her chair and rubbed her forehead. "'Kay," she said. "Here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to blow up your life just to get even. We're going to follow the paper. We're going to do this clean." She made me slow down long enough to take notes as if this was a client meeting, not just 2 old friends talking. The cabin, she explained, was legally mine. If I chose to keep it, fix it up, rent it out, or sell it, that was my call. The joint accounts, she said, were trickier but still clear enough. If my name was on them, I had the right to close them or remove myself, especially if I could show they had been opened under pressure or without full consent. I asked very quietly if that meant I could pull the plug on the financial safety net they'd built around me without telling me. Maya nodded. "You don't owe anyone access to your credit or your name, not even family," she said. "If they wanted to play big finance games, they should have used their own signatures. Not yours." She hesitated, biting her lip for a second before adding, "There is one thing you could do that would hit them where it hurts. But you need to be sure you want to go that far." She told me about a cash buyer she knew. Someone who could move fast and pay cleanly if the right place came along. The kind of offer people like my parents would brag about for years if they were the ones making it. "If you really want out," Maya said, "I can call them. We can list the cabin quietly, have the paperwork ready, and close fast. Legally, there's not much they can do if the deed says what I think it does." I sat there, chewing the inside of my cheek, thinking about summers at that cabin with my grandparents. The only people who ever made me feel like I wasn't the family disappointment. I thought about my parents using that place as the backdrop for perfect family photos, posting them online like I was just too busy to join their wonderful life. Selling it felt like slicing away the only soft memory I had with them. But leaving it in their hands felt worse. I asked Maya what would happen to the other stuff if we did it her way. She laid it out like a simple recipe. First, we prep the sale of the cabin and lock in a closing date. Then, we contact the banks to close every joint account and remove you from anything you never should have been tied to. Then, we document everything. Every call, every email. If they try to come after you, we show exactly how they've been using your name and credit for years. By the time she was done, my notebook was full of lines and arrows and bullet points. The word, mine, circled around the cabin 3 times. I looked at that messy page and then back at the screen. I don't want to destroy them, I said quietly. I just want them to stop. Maya held my gaze and replied, sometimes the only way people like that stop is when the consequences finally land on their own doorstep. You're not stealing from them, Jenna. You're taking your own name back. I sat with that for a long minute. Finally, I nodded. Call your buyers, I said. Let's see how fast they can move. So a few days after I started pulling my name off everything, I called the one person my parents trusted almost as much as they trusted themselves. The man who had been drawing up their wills and handling their estate planning for years. Harold Wheeler. When I called his office and gave my name, there was a pause, then a shift in tone when the receptionist realized I wasn't calling on behalf of my parents. She put me on hold, then came back saying Mr. Wheeler had a gap later that week if I could come in. The day of the meeting, I walked into a downtown office that looked like the inside of my parents' heads. Dark wood, framed certificates, tasteful art. Harold himself was older than I remembered. Jenna, he said, your mother didn't mention you were coming by. I smiled and told him that was sort of the point. We sat down and I did what I had done with Maya. I laid out the story. Cabin. The accounts. The way my name had been used. I did not mention the dinner. I stuck to facts and paperwork, pushing a neatly organized folder across his shiny desk. Then he pulled out my grandparents' old will, the one that had left the Lake Chelan property to Jenna for her future. On paper it looked straightforward. In practice, my parents had treated it like they owned it. Harold frowned as he compared that document to newer estate plans my parents had drawn up. My name had quietly been shifted. Not removed, but folded in with other assets in a way that made it look like what was mine was also theirs. He did not say fraud out loud, but his jaw tightened in a way that told me he was thinking it. He asked about the joint accounts. I showed him where I had already started to close things, how the bank had confirmed I was primary on some of them. I watched the moment it clicked. He took his glasses off, cleaned them slowly, and then said very carefully, Jenna, I have been advising your parents for a long time. I have always encouraged them to keep things clear and fair. It seems their implementation has not been as transparent as I would have hoped. We spent the next half hour going through updates he could make. Adjustments to the estate plan that would reflect the value of the cabin being properly yours. Language clarifying that any debts tied to certain lines of credit were the responsibility of my parents and my brother, not me. He was protecting himself, sure. But in doing that, he was also, maybe for the first time, protecting me. On the bus ride home, I opened my phone and stared at a blank status box on Facebook. For years, my parents had used social media as their personal PR machine. I wasn't about to write a call-out thread, so I typed a few simple lines. Sometimes you grow up thinking certain things are family gifts, when really your name and credit were being used as a safety net without you ever understanding the risk. This year I finally read the fine print. I'm taking back what was legally mine, and I won't be signing anything I don't fully understand ever again. Within minutes, the comments started. Old friends, college classmates. Then the reactions I knew would sting the most. A couple of my mom's church friends commented, "You're so brave for speaking up, sweetie." My phone buzzed with a text from my mom within 10 minutes. "What is that post supposed to mean? Take it down right now. You are making us look like monsters. A few minutes later, a text from Ryan. Delete that. Clients can see what you post. Do you have any idea how bad this makes us look? Ryan showed up 2 days after I made that post, pounding on my apartment door. I opened the door just enough to block most of the view with my body. He still did that automatic once-over of my place anyway. You think this is funny? He snapped, waving his phone in my face. You've completely nuked my credit. A client pulled out of a deal this morning because they ran a routine check and saw unusual activity. What the hell did you do? I told him calmly that I removed myself from accounts that never should have had my name on them in the first place. He scoffed. You're overreacting, Jenna. That stuff was under control. Dad had it managed. We were using it strategically, that's what families do. I reminded him of the time he'd called me crying at 2 in the morning because a deal had gone bad and he needed me to sign just this one thing, so he didn't lose everything. I reminded him of the vacations and dinners and upgrades that had gone on accounts tied to my social while I was eating ramen in this apartment. He didn't deny it. He just rolled his eyes and said, "It all comes out in the wash. You benefited too. You got to come to the cabin, didn't you?" That was the moment something in me snapped. I stepped back, opened the door wider, and pointed to my tiny living room. Do you see a cabin here, Ryan? Do you see a savings account fattened up by your investments? Do you see any of the benefits you're so sure I enjoyed? All I see are bills with my name on them and a family that thought I'd never actually read them. He shot back that I was ruining everything, that Mom hadn't stopped crying, that Dad was furious. I didn't do this to destroy you, I said. I did this to stop you from using me. Fine, he snapped. You want to play it this way? I'm bringing Dad. He'll explain it to you. He left without waiting for an answer. An hour later there was another knock. Quieter but somehow heavier. When I opened the door, my dad stood there. He didn't ask to come in. He just walked past me and took the one decent chair. Jenna, he began. We need to talk like adults. You've made some impulsive decisions. You're affecting more than just yourself. I told him I was perfectly happy to talk like adults. Adults read what they sign. His jaw tightened. The cabin was a family asset, he said. We managed it for you. You had no idea how to handle something like that financially. We stepped in to protect you. No, I said. You stepped in to use it. I slid the folder I had brought from Maya and Harold off the table and opened it. I pointed to my grandparents' will. I showed him where my name had been woven into loans and accounts that had nothing to do with me. For the first time since he walked in, he didn't have a quick answer. He scanned the pages. You went to Harold, he said slowly. Without us. I shrugged. You trust him, don't you? He's the best. That's what you always told everyone. He set the papers down and pinched the bridge of his nose. All right, he said, voice lower. Maybe we blurred a few lines over the years. But you are making a spectacle out of this. That post you made. The calls we're getting. The questions. Do you have any idea how hard I've worked to build our reputation? I told him that his reputation was his to worry about. My only concern was my name. My credit. My future. He tried a different angle then. We're your parents, Jenna. Families share risk. We helped you when you needed it. We covered things. We loaned you money. I asked him if he had any documentation of loans to me that looked anything like the meticulous paperwork attached to every favor I had ever done for them. He didn't answer. Instead, he sighed and leaned back. What do you want? He asked. Money. An apology. You want us to sign something. Just tell me what makes this go away and we can talk. I took a breath and realized that was the difference between us. He thought everything had a price tag. I don't want hush money, I said. I don't want a secret settlement. I want the accounts fixed, which is already happening. I want the estate plan to reflect reality, which Harold is working on. And I want you to stop talking about me like I'm both a burden and a backup plan. I wanted out of the financial part of our family. He stared at me like I was speaking another language. You can't just opt out of family, Jenna, he said. You already did, I replied. You opted me out when you invited me to dinner just so you could laugh at me. He left without slamming the door. One afternoon a few weeks after everything settled, my mom asked to meet me. We met at a coffee shop. She looked smaller without the armor of our house around her. She apologized. Not the kind of half-apology I grew up with. The, "I'm sorry if you felt that way" maneuver. Real one. She said she was sorry for laughing at dinner. She was sorry for calling it pity. She was sorry for signing my name onto things without thinking about what it would cost me. She said she had spent years telling herself they were helping me, that it was all for my own good, because that story made it easier to ignore the ways they were using me. I listened. I didn't rush to comfort her. When she finished, I told her I appreciated the apology. But I told her that words weren't going to magically reset anything. The version of me they were used to, the one who signed whatever was put in front of her to keep the peace, was gone. From now on, no joint accounts. No favors that looked like the family emergency line of credit. No using my work or my life as a punchline to make themselves feel better. If they wanted a relationship with me, it would have to be on terms that didn't require me to shrink. She nodded, eyes shiny, and for once didn't argue. My dad took longer. He didn't apologize exactly. But he stopped trying to convince me I'd overreacted. Ryan is still Ryan. But he knows better than to ask me for a signature now. Cabin sold. I used the money to pay off the last of my real debts, student loans, a car note, and put the rest into an account that has exactly one name on it, mine. I rented that bright studio space I found. I put my game sketches up on the walls. And for the first time in my life, I don't feel like a safety net for anyone else. I feel like my own person. So if you've ever felt like the black sheep or the backup plan or the punchline at the dinner table, I hope this story reminds you of something important. You are not a safety net. You are not a prop. You are allowed to outgrow the role your family chose for you. And you are definitely allowed to take your name back.